All right, welcome back to another episode of the Dim Weight Podcast. I think it's going to be a good show. Today I got Adam Peters on the show. Adam, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing great, man. Grateful to be here, brother.
I'm grateful you here too, man. I think I'm gonna enjoy this conversation, man. So, um, I'm at where you from? I'm gonna ask that first.
Well, I'm a little bit of a nomad, man. I was born and raised in southern Indiana, then spent about 10 years of my life in Georgia, another 10 years of my life in Washington State, and here I am in Florida, living my life, being a beach bum.
Oh man, that's what's up. So, where did you live at in Georgia?
I was in Savannah.
Savannah. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm here in Tennessee. I live outside of Chattanooga in Cleveland.
Okay. Yeah, I used to drive through there from Indiana back, down to Georgia when I'd travel back and forth home when I was a young buck, not really ready to let go of home yet,
Yeah, yes, sir. So, what made you become a nomad? Like you mentioned a couple of states, like
yeah, the army, the army, the army will do that to you. I wanted out of small town America, so I joined the army at 17. Wanted to see the world. Ended up in Georgia and Washington. That's the only two places they sent me, other than the Middle East, a bunch of times. So it didn't really fulfill the travel bug, but got to experience Georgia life, and then completely opposite of that, going up to Washington on the western side, of the Cascades, where it rains all the time. So I probably never would have got there on my own.
I understand that. So I know it's a big difference. Georgia, living in the South, and then going up to Washington State. My brother and his family were just up in Washington State a couple years ago. They're back in D.C. now. So,
yeah, it was a big time culture shock leaving Southern hospitality in Georgia for the rude ass people up there in Washington, man. I'll never forget the first time I got there, like common courtesy, right? Like just hold the door open for an old lady, carrying her groceries out. And this old Asian lady looked at me and she was like, "I don't need your help. I can hold my own door." And I'm like, all right, this is not at all what I'm used to here. Like, just don't help people here,
Yeah, but then you feel like when you start helping, if you don't help them, then they look at you like, "Why you not helping me out?" So it's like
it's a lose-lose situation. Yeah. It's like, come on, I'm just trying to be a decent guy to you. I was raised right, like just hold the door for people. Like, and that's not how it went when I got up there. So I learned that pretty quick.
So how long were you up in Washington State?
So I was up there from 2011 to 2020. I left during COVID.
Okay, that's what's up. So let's talk about Army life, man. Military life. How was that? How was that experience for you? I'm intrigued by it because I've had a couple guys come on my show that's been 30 years in the Air Force. I had two guys like 30 plus years in the Air Force and things like that, and getting to talk to them about that and afterlife. So I'm definitely, that's why I'm excited to have you on, because I want to talk to you about military life, but afterlife of the military.
Yeah, man. Military life for me was, like I said, it was my way out of small town America. I like growing up in the farm towns of Indiana. Those are all family owned farms. So the jobs that you're going to get, when you graduate high school, you're going to go work for the local construction company. You're going to go work for the farmers. I knew that wasn't in my cards, and I just wanted out. I just wanted to see the world. So I joined the Army, and I thought basic training was a joke because I was a 3-sport athlete in high school. So I was like expecting it to be, more physically hard. I mean, it's a little bit mentally hard getting over, another grown man yelling at you, telling you what to do all the time. But then you just kind of adapt, right? Like you realize where you're at. Like I knew what I signed up for. However, I didn't realize that I was going to spend my entire career deployed. I was deployed every other year from 2004 to 2015 when I was medically retired. So, largely as an infantryman, my job was to go over there, kick doors down, and shoot people in the face. And that's the reality of it. You know what I mean? So my life from, 17 to 30 years old was just one constant training cycle, if you will, right? Like just becoming the best infantryman you can be so that you can go to war, come home from war, do it all over again, go back to war, come home from war, and repeat that 4 times,
So how do you do that? Like, I feel like you just got to go in like robot mode, or just like lose like lose feelings and not care about things?
Oh, dude, I love this question so much, man, because it doesn't get asked enough. Like, how do you do that? And it's funny, people think I'm crazy, but you actually start to long for it because a deployment it's the simple life, man. You don't worry about what's for dinner, what bills need to get paid, do I got to be at work on time. It's simple in that the rules are really simple. It's kill or be killed, essentially, right? Like you're there to do your job, go out on that patrol, go roll up that bad guy, or pull security on this thing, or do this key leader engagement over here, and you just know what you're doing all the time at all times. There's no bullshit, right? Like, there's no family drama. There's no, like I said, having to figure out what's for dinner. How am I going to pay this bill this month? It's like you just stop being an adult, basically, and you just
About
the deployment life.
Yeah.
So like I was saying, man, deployment life really just consists of doing your job, eating, sleeping, not a lot of sleeping, but working out, and just repeat. So for me, I started to long for it. It was easier to be deployed than it was to be home.
Yeah, I understand that.
I don't know if you've heard that before, but people think I'm crazy when I say deployment life really is easier than being an adult back home.
Well, no, I get that when you say it like that, because it's like, I think as a man, like being at home, we got a lot of responsibility, and then but I'm in a wheelchair. I never had a chance to join the military, but I can guess, hey, I don't got to know what's for dinner. I don't got to pay no bills right now. Like I know, like that structure. All I need is that structure right there, and I'm good. So
yeah, man. Yeah, it just makes living life pretty easy because you really don't have to think for yourself. Like the hardest thing is, am I going to make it to chow, because the chow hall closes at whatever time, right? But the Army is going to make sure you get fed, and if you don't make it to the chow hall, well, then there's a box of MREs over there that you always have access to. So like, really don't have to think. You just do.
So I never had an MRE. How are those?
This is another unpopular opinion, man, but I do kind of miss them. They're not the greatest. They're really not good for you. But there's some good ones. The beef patty is a good one. The beef ravioli, man, I've seen people fight over that one. I've literally seen people throw fists over the beef ravioli MRE. So, there are some good ones in there. What I think's best about the MREs is the desserts, right? The pound cakes. Sometimes you'll get lucky and get Reese's Pieces or M&Ms in there, and it's like gold when you hit that, man.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
So do you have any, buddies still that you talk to from your time in the military?
I do, man. I have a couple of kids that I used to mentor in the Army. One of them's now about to pin E8 on, so he passed me up. He's out leading, companies of soldiers now. And then I have a couple other guys that I gave guidance to over the course of their careers who are out doing some secret squirrel stuff now. So I get phone calls pretty regularly from some of the guys, just asking for advice. And it's like, man, I've been out almost a decade now. So like, it's hard for me to give you advice because, the military is a machine that changes all the time, right? Policy changes, the way, your standards change, everything changes. So I'm just so out of touch with it anymore. But I think more to the point is like they come to me for leadership guidance, right? They want to be better leaders. And, that's a pretty humbling thing, man. It lets you know that like, even though I don't have the highest opinion of myself in my career, I must have done something right if I have other grown men coming back to me, asking me for guidance all these years later.
For sure. And we're always a little bit harder on ourselves than other people.
Oh yeah, always. Guilty as charged.
Yeah, so I probably would say the same thing that you say now. Like I don't think much of my advice, but if you get something out of it, that's good.
yeah, for sure.
That's what's up. So you're off the military now. What are you doing?
Yeah, man. So I spent about 8 years trying to figure out what I was going to do. The Transition Assistance Program was called ACAP when I got out, and it stands for Army Career Assistance Program. It's kind of a joke, man. They throw a bunch of resources at you. They don't really tell you how to use them. You're inundated with so much stuff because you're trying to get out in a short amount of time. They send you to a resume writing class, and really they just kind of shake your hand, tell you to, you got a good resume now, go get a degree with your GI Bill, and good luck. Really, that's the extent of it. So I tried everything when I got out. The first thing I did was go to flight school, exhausted my GI Bill on flight school, found out there's another benefit called Voc Rehab that you can use after you exhaust your GI Bill that will pay for further education. So, my piloting stuff came with, an associate's degree. Everybody was telling me you need a bachelor's degree to do anything really in the real world. So used the Voc Rehab program to go get a bachelor's in business and psychology at a weird school, which was actually kind of turned out to be, well, I say it's weird, man, because it's called the Evergreen State College and they don't have grades. So it's a choose your own adventure school. And by that, I mean, you really do get to pick any one of the classes that they offer and take that and kind of build your own degree program. And you don't have grades, but you have to, I think it's harder in a way because you actually have to do the work. Like you have a self eval, then you have an instructor eval, and then you do a joint evaluation. That's what gives you your credits. So if you're skipping out on the work, you're not going to get the grade or the credits. You know what I mean? So in that regard, I think it's harder. So I finished that. While I was doing that, I managed a couple of vape shops and, was managing a gun store for quite a while, and I discovered I had a knack for business. I just enjoyed it. I was running this guy's gun store, making him a lot of money. He had stopped showing up completely, and I was the guy, right? I was ordering, I was making payroll, I was doing it all. I was stocking shelves, cleaning floors, helping customers, running NICS checks, ordering guns, ordering suppressors, just anything. I did it all. I made him a lot of money, and I got an opportunity to go start my own insurance agency. And I didn't know what I didn't know about that industry. And that's a scummy industry, man. There's two sides to that industry. There's the good side and the bad side. There's no in between. And I didn't know anything about it. So I ended up in South Carolina for about 18 months, knocking doors, selling final expense to seniors. So I was selling an intangible life insurance product in the form of whole life to if I'm being honest, man, the poorest 1/3 of America. Like I was knocking on doors in rural South Carolina, Georgia, Tennessee, and Florida. And you can speak to Tennessee, man. There's some really, really poor people in Tennessee, Georgia, Florida that they didn't have any money. And I just felt really, really bad about that. So I abandoned that, man. And, I decided I was going to start my own thing. I had no idea what it was. So I tried everything, dude. I tried faceless TikTok and YouTube that you see all the gurus talk about. I tried Amazon FBA. I tried blogging. I tried starting my own kind of, drop shipped eyewear, custom eyewear line, kind of modeling after Zenni Optical. If you're familiar with them, they're kind of big in the internet space. And, none of that shit worked out, man. None of it worked out, but it taught me a lot. And so last year in November, my best friend from the Army, he was coming back from Colombia. He's a real life nomad. He doesn't own any property. He just bounces around from place to place to place every 3 to 6 months and travels the world selling. He's in tech sales now. He's a pretty high up there SDR. But he challenged me to start on LinkedIn, posting and engaging with people whose content I enjoyed. So I took him up on the challenge. Long story short, I met a lot of people who kind of influenced me to start my company, which is called the Strategic Veteran. And the whole premise behind it is kind of threefold. It's my way of doing something to stop the 22 a day and stop veterans from taking their lives, because we don't have to be doing this. And then it's kind of like a pipeline to teach them about entrepreneurship and really kind of hold their hand and inform them of all the things that they should be doing if they want to get into business, so that they don't have to walk the same road that I did and learn all those lessons the hard way, waste thousands of dollars on what I call YouTube guru courses. And, I hate those courses so much for anybody that's listening, because they're dishonest, and I don't think you need to be a dishonest businessman. I don't need to create a funnel that hooks you in saying, I'm going to give you the secret to making $10,000 a month, and you can do that in 60 days, only to have you pay me that $1,000 and never give you the secret, and then upcharge you for the next offer, and then upcharge you for the next offer. All the while I'm lining my pockets, and you're not getting the information that you need. And what I discovered, honestly, man, is there's no shortcut. It's hard work. It's a lot of failure. It's a lot of learning lessons that you didn't know you had to learn, and you typically learn them through failing. And I just want to spread that message to veterans and ease their transition so that they don't have to go through the same things that I went through. So from the Strategic Veteran, which is my podcast, I created a paid community called The Stronghold, $30 a month for any veteran. And it's the antithesis of Facebook groups. And I don't like Facebook groups because when I was in flight school, and particularly when I was learning how to fly with the instruments, I had a lot of questions, and I thought that it would be good to go to these groups and ask the experience. What I found out was they're not patient. They don't give a shit about a newbie, and they're going to rip you to shreds and really turn you off to the industry. And I see that in these veteran groups on Facebook. I'm sure you probably see it in any group on Facebook. There's just toxicity that exists in there, and I don't find them helpful. So the main driving point behind my community is, you could be the best entrepreneur or entrepreneur, and you can come here and talk about the mental health challenges that you're going through, the loss of identity and purpose, that you lose when you get out of the military. And you can be open and vulnerable about that. And you can talk to talk about it with people who have been where you've been, but have made it through the other side and are building their own business. So it's kind of, it all works together. You get the networking piece, you get the knowledge piece, you get to vent without judgment. And I think it's a healthy way to get people to heal. And because I started all of that, I ended up getting hooked up, kind of opened some doors for myself, got hooked up with a company called Gray Group Tactical, who sponsored my podcast. Their CEO got involved with a nonprofit organization and invited me to take a meeting with the nonprofit organization, which led to me becoming the director of recruiting for a nonprofit called QRF Up. And what we do is we're a phone application. I call it it's a therapist in your pocket. Basically, if you're a veteran or first responder in crisis, you push the big red button. You're immediately connected with a licensed healthcare professional in your state who will attempt to de-escalate the situation. If they decide that they can de-escalate the situation on the phone, they'll give the caller a time that they need to call back. And if they miss that call in, or if the mental health care professional decides that they cannot de-escalate on the phone, we're instituting a mobile response crisis team made up of former military guys and first responders to actually go to your location and help de-escalate without the involvement of active law enforcement. Because what we've learned through PTSD and TBI and all the stuff that you hear the veteran and first responder community deal with, sending law enforcement to respond to somebody's fight or flight response, it just makes the situation worse, right? And I know from being in those dark places that if a brother or sister that I could relate to who has been where I've been and done what I've done shows up to de-escalate, I will respond to that so much better. So from November to March, so November of last year to March of this year, we ran a 25,000 app download pilot in Minnesota. We had 1,120 lives we saved, and only about 5% of those either ended up with criminal charges or had to be hospitalized. So it really does work. And it's all volunteer. Every single one of us in the organization is volunteering our time to make this happen. And it aligns with everything that I should be doing in life right now, man. I was so lost when I got out. I didn't know what to do. I tried so many different things and wasted 8 years of my life, essentially. And instead, now I get to be a leader of soldiers again. I get to work with the men and women that I served with for the majority of my life, and I couldn't be happier about it. So I know that was a really long-winded answer to you, but I'm doing a lot, man.
No, I like that. I get that passion, and it seems like you have a good community or built a great community with your brothers and sisters that serve. And I get that. I'm in a wheelchair, so I love to have like the community, a disabled community, even, you know, I'm a cigar smoker. And I know people on my podcast, like, you always talk about those things, but I talk about those things because they bring people, they bring the community around, and like, we're not meant to be by ourselves.
Exactly. And you're speaking such a big truth right now, man, because that was my attitude getting out of the military was, fuck it, I'll do it myself, right? Like, I'll figure it out on my own. And dude, that's a recipe for disaster. It just sends you further down that hole. And so, like you said, man, cigars, right? That's a huge thing that brings people together. I'm not a big cigar smoker, but man, the few cigar lounges I've ever been to in my life, it's some of the best conversation I've ever had. You know, and you're absolutely right. You're speaking to, we as human beings, we're meant to be a community. We're meant to get along and be around others. You know what I mean? And so it's so important. And I love that you catch that, right? Like, you understand that, because a lot of people don't.
Yeah. So like I said, I'm big on that. And you know, growing up in a wheelchair, I didn't have a lot of role models in wheelchairs to tell you, you know, it's going to be okay. You know, you still going to have a good life. I had to figure out a lot of stuff on my own, things like that. So it's like, I'm in a situation kind of where you're saying, like, I don't want you to waste your life. You know, I'm gonna give you some game right now. If you listen to it, you be good. Like, I don't want you to waste your life and think and be discouraged all the time. So I'm gonna help you out, and I'm trying to even help people out that, God forbid, I can't even talk. God forbid somebody either has a child that's going to be in a wheelchair or end up being in an accident that they become disabled, to say, look, it's going to be okay. You're going to have some dark days, but if you make it through that, life is going to be great. You know, you may have to like switch your identity a little bit, but it's still you. And you're going to be good. It's going to be great.
Yeah, man. And I don't think we as a society do that enough for each other. And that's what I'm trying to change within my community. It sounds like that's what you're trying to do within, you know, your community, the disabled community. Like, we can help each other understand this so that it doesn't have to plague our lives and our minds and rob us of so much time, you know, because we can't get that time back, brother. Like, that 8.5 years of my life is gone. I'm almost 40 years old and I wasted 8 years of my life. Like, what am I doing here? And it didn't have to be that way. It could have been somebody out there like me that stood up and said, hey, this is a problem. Let's fix it. You know?
For sure. Hey, so I get that, man. Are you doing anything else? I know you did vape shop. Like, are you a vape smoker? Like, I just want to get off topic for a minute. That's what you said.
Yeah, it's right here, man. We all have vices. That was a unique experience for me, man, because a civilian family that I had met right as I was getting out, they started this shop. They now own like 5 or 6 across the state of Washington. Like, they really built a whole business, and they brought me in pretty early. They gave me a job as just a regular guy, you know what I mean? Just stocking shelves and customer service. And, you know, they treated me like family, and it was really awesome. So I do still vape, but, you know, I live off of my retirement money now. I structured all my finances in a way that I could pour all of my energy into doing what I'm doing with the nonprofit and my own company, because the community means so much to me, man. And I'm going to give you some numbers. During the whole entire global war on terror, we lost 7,057 service members to combat, right? Over 20 years. Since in that same time frame, we've lost 30,117 to suicide.
Wow.
So that's 4 times as many people have taken their own lives as combat did. And I have a big problem with that, man. These are some of the best men and women that I've ever met and served with, taking their own lives, and it doesn't have to be that way. And it all starts with education and understanding that, you know, your identity is not your career. You are a person with goals, values, and morals beyond what the Army or the Marines or, whatever branch you served in teaches you. And, I think it's that important that I'm willing to sacrifice a lot of things in my life that I want to be doing. If I would just, go work a 9 to 5 and live off my retirement money, I'd rather be doing this work, man. I'd rather be helping people because, we don't get the time back,
Yeah, definitely don't get the top back. And that's a very alarming number, though. It's like I never realized that. And I that's why I like to have these conversations, because I like to learn, and I'm not big on the military in those type of numbers like that. But it's like you're pretty much safer going to the Middle East than being inside your own head.
That's exactly what and I'm going to steal that from you because that's such a good way to put it. It's safer to go to war than it is to come home from war and be stuck with those thoughts in your own head. It's kind of a self-inflicted problem, because when I was in, we were taught it's weak to ask for help. It's weak to share how you're feeling and what you're going through. And I don't know, as a man, I feel like just as a man in society, that's still not really acceptable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm out here trying to change it, because to me, and I don't know if you agree with this or not, I think that willing to be vulnerable and put your dirt out there, if you will, the shit that you're going through, to me is the strongest thing that you can do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it encourages somebody else to say, you know what, I feel the same way.
It's exactly right. Yep.
Obviously, there's going to be some people that still may make fun of you and say you weak and stuff like that, but I just think that guy's actually more weaker. It takes a stronger person to say, you know what, this is affecting me in a bad way.
Yes, sir.
I don't like the way this is doing this, and I don't know how to handle it.
Yep.
I need some help.
Yep.
And I think
it all goes back to what you said about the community. There's a community of people there to help you if you're just willing to ask for it.
And all you got to do is be willing to ask for it.
Yep.
So are you a big overthinker in your head, or is that something you had to work on?
No. So yeah, I did, man. I used to be a huge overthinker, and last year my life changed completely. I had the opportunity to go to Tarapoto, Peru, and go on a 7-night ayahuasca journey. So psychedelic literally saved my life. It taught me a lot of things. Most of all, that I was capable of so much more than I ever gave myself credit for, but also to love and respect myself first. Mm-hmm. Not to put what everybody else wants you to do, what everybody else expects you to do. I lived my life by that till I was 38 years old, and ayahuasca in one night changed all of that for me. It taught me that I can trust my gut. I can live my life the way that I feel like I should be living my life, not how others expect me to live my life. And that's why I came up with the idea of the strategic veteran and the path back to purpose for veterans being entrepreneurship, because entrepreneurship is very much what you want to be doing. It's all you. It's the decisions are all you. The control of the time is all you. Nobody else has set the expectation except for you. And I believe that to my bones, man.
I like that a lot. I'm a little nervous to get into the holistic kind of things and things like that.
Don't be, man. It's amazing.
That's probably where I would really be in my head. I try not to be in my head a lot and overthink, but I don't know. So I need you to talk to me a little bit more about that, because
yeah, man.
I'm always open-minded about things like that. So, but I like to know more.
So yeah, man. I mean, we could look at it from a my experience standpoint. I was ready to check out of life when I got sent to Tarapoto. I was done. I was constantly waking up asking myself, like, why am I here? Like, why am I, like, what am I doing? Right. Like, just agnostic about everything. I didn't care about anything. Like, it was just like, why am I waking up today? And when I got picked up for that trip, it was kind of self-inflicted, because I knew I needed to do something to change everything that was going on with me, from, really trying to make a plan to end my own life. Whether I had the balls to do it or not, that's a different story, because that's a pretty permanent decision. And, us being overthinkers, right? Like you'll overthink your way out of actually pulling that trigger. But, I promised myself one thing, is that I would go on this retreat and I would participate with an open mind in everything that they were teaching, everything. I made that promise to myself. And so when you go do a really, what I would consider the right way to go do plant medicine is, obviously not in the United States, because it's in no way, shape, or form legal. And, we're fighting battles in court about that stuff right now. But going to Central and South America, where it has been tradition for thousands of years, right? Like these people train in this, they study this, they go out into the Amazon rainforest for days, weeks, months at a time over the course of their life to really learn how these things work. And then they come back and give you all of this knowledge in a ceremonial setting. So, but beyond that, there's things like meditation, yoga, mindfulness, gratitude practices, abundance mindset, growth mindset, learning how to eat, learning how to not eat, things like learning that ice cold water is actually bad for you. If you really think about it, it makes sense. When in history have we ever had access to this much food and ice water? Never. Mm-hmm. Our ancestors didn't have ice. They couldn't make ice unless it was cold outside. You know what I mean? And so all of that stuff really shaped my experience. And the ayahuasca allowed me to put all of those things into practice. So, the first thing I do when I wake up in the morning is I say 5 things that I'm grateful for every morning. And it doesn't have to be big things. I'm grateful that I woke up today. I'm grateful that my arms and legs work. No offense to you. I apologize. but I mean, just as an example, right? Like if I was in your situation, I feel like I'm in a place now where I could wake up and I'm glad I'm alive. And I'm thankful that I have a wheelchair so that I can be mobile. You know what I mean? Like I'm grateful for that. And then immediately after that, I strap up my 2 dogs and we go for a 4-mile walk at a pretty good clip just to move my body. And while I'm walking, I don't listen to headphones. I take in the sounds of nature and the traffic and what's going on around me. And I really work on whatever's going on in my mind at that time. I sit with those thoughts and those feelings and I try to decide, okay, does this thought serve me? If it doesn't serve me, I try to let it go so that it doesn't consume energy that is best spent doing things that are productive. After I come back from that, 3 days a week, I'll do 20 minutes to an hour of yoga and then get to work on whatever it is I have to do for the day. So like today, it's been writing a bunch of email sequences that are going to go out to all of our responders for the nonprofit as they sign up to be responders, right? And in that, there's different things that I do throughout the day. I look around at my desk and I got like a Rodecaster Pro over here. And I'm like, I have everything that I need, that abundance mindset, right? Like we get so focused on what I call living with the Joneses, right? Like, oh, he got the new Tesla Model Y, so I got to go get a new Tesla Model Y right now, right? Like he got the new Rolex, so I need to go get the Rolex, right? I got to beat him. I just look around and like, I've got $10,000 worth of equipment on my desk so that I can be a podcaster and I can run my business. I have everything that I need, right? And that really reshapes your mind into, getting out of that, like feeling sorry for yourself kind of attitude. Like, I don't have enough money. No, I have enough money because there's people in this world that don't have any money. You know what I mean? They're destitute. They have nothing, so you can, for me, the abundance mindset is just really about looking around and understanding that it's not as bad as I think it is. I'm making it out to be so much worse than it actually is. And then, things like, dude, I work at a computer all day. I'm sure you can relate to this. It's nice to be able to go outside and put my bare feet in the grass and ground myself. You know what I mean? Just be in nature, soak up some sun, to allow myself to be more productive and take a break from this. I largely don't watch TV anymore. It doesn't interest me, and I gotta be honest, man. I think think TV is a really bad thing now, particularly like, some of these bigger networks who are pushing a narrative that is divisive. I don't think that's healthy for us as a population. It is forcing us to look at one another with biases and prejudices that I don't think are warranted. You know what I mean? I think that it's dangerous. I think that social media is a terrible, terrible place to be. I don't like it. The only reason I use it is because it's how you get ahead in business. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like it's what you have to do in business. But I have, kind of mitigation things set up so that I can't fall back into that trap and let somebody divide me with politics or, whatever the flavor of the week is. Like it's just not healthy for any of us. We should all be walking around excited to meet new people, because with meeting new people comes new perspective, which means you can look at the world through a different lens and maybe learn a bunch of shit you never thought you could learn. And so all of this plays into, I think, me overcoming that overthinking that you were talking about.
Yeah, for sure. And I like the way you say meeting new people. We should be excited to meet new people.
Yeah, man.
And get new perspective on life. Like, I just met you. And
obviously, literally 30 minutes ago, we just met for the first time. And and we can have a conversation.
We can have a conversation. I'm getting a new perspective on life. I think I brought something. Now, with that being said, are we going to agree with everything that we agree with? No, sir. But at the end of the day, I met a cool dude, and I'm like, bro, I learned something today.
Yeah,
and I want to take that.
And that's how you should approach every interaction with anybody. I am not going to agree 100% with everything that you believe in. We've lived different lives. We grew up in different places. We've had different experiences that have shaped the way we think and believe. But the difference is I'm opening to hear how you view the world, and you're open to hearing how I view the world. And we can probably meet in the middle on a lot of fucking things, right? For sure. And if you just approach every interaction that way, I promise you, your life is so good. It's so good, man.
Yeah, I like that, man. Just having that gratitude, man, is just always show gratitude. I don't know if you believe in God or not. I do, and sometimes I instead of just praying for stuff that I need or want, I just say, hey, I thank you that I'm able to live and feel this joy that I have right now, because in 5 minutes, it may be so much different. So I thank you for this opportunity to feel this experience right now.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I 100%, man. It's for me, spirituality is, I've had a weird battle with the religion and spirituality. I definitely believe in a higher power. I call it the universe. That's just what it is to me. But I still pray. I meditate. And when I do, it's like what you just said. I don't even ask for anything. I just thank. I'm grateful that you give me this, and it makes life better, dude. It really, and I'm sure you can relate, right? Being in a wheelchair is not easy. I'm sure it's not easy. I can't understand it because I'm not in one. I walk around with my own injuries. I just had a back surgery in January. You know what I mean? Like walking around is painful for me, but I try not to show that, and I try not to be bitter about that, because at least I'm still here, and I know I can still do a lot of good here, Yeah. Sure. And I could choose to be the other way about it. I'm in pain all the time. Don't talk to me. Let me be angry and sold up because my life isn't going how I thought it was going to go. It's like, well, then you're just wasting your life, right?
Yeah. And we don't want to waste our life. I mean, I hate when people have, if one thing in life that irritates me is when people choose to be negative. It's like you said, you wake up, you find 5 things to be grateful for, even if they're small. It's like, that's what it's about. Like, we don't need it. Obviously, it's cool to be grateful for big things that happen, but them small things are what really counts in life. So it's like, I hate when people are just negative and just don't be grateful for the positive. Like, all right, even when I show them, but look, you got this going on, you got that going on, you got this. But they still say, but this. And I'm like, come on.
But there doesn't need to be a but, right? Like there shouldn't be a but. It's funny that you say that because you're talking about showing them what they have going on in their life, what they really need to do, what you should do, and this is what I do with any veteran who comes to me that's struggling. I make them write down the things that they've accomplished in the last year, because when you make them write it down, it really puts into perspective how much or how little they actually have or haven't accomplished. And man, that's such a powerful exercise, because you're right. We don't have time to be negative. And this is speaking from somebody who was about as negative as they get for a long, long time. You know what I mean? I am not above anybody else. I am just as guilty as everybody else. And I'm just out here trying to spread the word on the stuff that I learned that changed my life.
Yeah. And that's what it's about. Like, we can't sit here and say that we've always, I mean, I've always tried to look positive, but even in that, we're going to have days where we're not going to want to or think about any positive. We just want to like soak in that negativity and just be like, I don't care right now. And we're going to have our bad days, but
yes, sir.
I have more good days than bad days. I'll just say that.
Yeah, and the thing about it is we are going to have those days, and knowing that it's okay to have those days, but not allowing yourself to let them, compound and just go on and on and on, right? Like it's okay to have one bad day. Let's just make tomorrow a little bit better. You know what I mean? Yeah. Don't stay in the same state of mind. Just be a little bit more grateful the next day. And then you don't perpetuate that negative cycle and then end up being miserable.
For sure. I got you, man. Well, hold on, let me see something. I've definitely enjoyed this conversation, man, for real. And I'm glad that I get to talk to a cool guy today, man. It's just
dude, me too, man. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I love doing this stuff, man. Just meeting new people, learning from other people. It sounds like you and I have a ton in common. Who would have thought, right? Two strangers getting on a podcast. And I've never met you. I've never even been to where you're at. I've been through Chattanooga close. That's about it, right? Mm-hmm. But here we are having a great conversation and learning from one another.
Yeah, and that's what it's about. And hopefully people can learn from listening to this conversation that
I hope
this
so,
is what
man.
It's all about. But do you do a podcast? You don't do a podcast, do you?
I do, yeah. My podcast is targeted specifically to veteran entrepreneurs so that I can use them as examples to, funnel transitioning veterans kind of towards my offer, right? Because I know for me, when I was, getting out and going through all of that, if I would have had a show where I could see, other veterans talking about the substance abuse and the going to jail or the putting the gun in their mouth, and telling the hard truths about what they went through in their transition. If I would have known that I wasn't alone and could have seen somebody come out the other side of that and do good things, it would have helped me immensely. And so that's kind of how I tried to create my show. So my show is really structured. It's like a little bit of, what inspired them to join, where they grew up, and some highlights of their career. We talk a lot about the transition, when they have to get out and how they made it through that. And then we talk a lot about their business, because that's kind of my shtick, right? Like the path back to purpose being entrepreneurship. So, it's a fairly new podcast. I launched my first episode in May. We release episodes every Wednesday. And it's been a blast getting to talk to other entrepreneurs and learn from them, but also it's kind of selfish in that it helps me heal, because I get to talk about these things too. I get to relate to somebody else who's been where I've been and done what I've done and gone through the same things that I do. So it's still a part of a healing process for me to get that off my chest. And, each new guest brings a new kind of memory or something that I had forgotten about or, just hadn't dealt with yet. And then I get to work on that for myself. So it's like, I don't know. Plus then I just get to talk to cool people all the time, man. That's my whole job, is just talking to people who are cool and learning from them. Just like what you said, man, like talking to strangers and learning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sometimes guests, I enjoy talking to all my guests, but sometimes like Some of them are meaningful than other ones.
Yeah, for sure.
But I am so like I don't like I have a niche, but like when I talk to people like you, and you, and just a quote, I'm still thinking about that. That statistic about the whole how many people in a 20-year span died versus how many took their life. Like it's in my mind. It's just like I'm still like, wow, that is wild. That is wild. And like, so I don't know. It's going to be in my head for a while, but it's going to make me want to do more research. And maybe, I talk to more people that are something with those things. I know I don't share those same experiences, but, just to have somebody listen to them and stuff like that, man.
And you should do that, man. Like it doesn't matter if you have those experiences. It's almost like I would say you're doing them a favor by asking them to come on and share their story, because they're going to discover something about themselves in telling that story that they may otherwise not have discovered or, moved past. So you are going to help facilitate healing in that individual. And I think that's really kind of my message is talking about the shit and, getting out of your own way and being vulnerable to open up about the things that ail you is the strongest thing you can do. And it's the quickest way to heal from them.
Yeah, I get that, man. And it's pumped me up today, but I'm not going to take up too much of your time. Is there, before we get off here, is there anything else you wanted to say about overcoming struggles, being resilient, or like,
no, man, I just want to say thank you for having me on and let me talk to your audience and talk to you and learn from you, man. And I would encourage you to keep doing this, man, because it makes a difference in people's lives. It makes a difference in people's lives.
Yes, sir. It makes a difference. And like I said, I'm gonna be selfish too as well, because I want to hear these stories, and it's just cool, man. I like that, man. But
yeah, brother. Yep. I'm with you, man. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful that you had me on, man. I'm glad I got to meet you and talk to you.